Yeah, I think we're live. Uh, hmm. Hello, everyone. Today we are here for a very, very, very special occasion. Today is 18th January. आज 18 जनवरी है. एंड पिछले साल 18 जनवरी को किसान आंदोलन ने, संयुक्त किसान मोर्चा ने एक बहुत ही लैंडमार्क डे के तौर पे मनाया था, महिला किसान दिवस. और उसी की लेगेसी को आगे ले जाने के लिए, टू इंश्योर कि हर साल हम महिला किसान दिवस को मनाएं, उसी उपलक्ष्य में आज महिला स्वराज की ओर से हम ये खास बातचीत आप सभी के लिए लाए हैं. कई सारे ऐसे एस्टिमेट्स हैं जहाँ पे बताया जाता है कि 60 से 70% किसानी का काम महिलाएं करती हैं. और इसके बावजूद जब भी हम किसान के बारे में सोचते हैं तो द फर्स्ट इमेज, जो पहली छवि हमारे दिमाग में आती है, वो एक पुरुष की आती है. तो इसीलिए महिला किसानों की जो दुनिया है वो कहीं पे छुपी हुई है. और उसी दुनिया के बारे में ज्यादा जानने के लिए आज हमारे साथ कुछ बहुत स्पेशल गेस्ट्स हैं. हमारे साथ हैं पूर्वी व्यास मैम, जो कि खुद महिला किसान हैं, जो कि खुद महिला किसानों के नेटवर्क्स के साथ काम करती हैं. और जो किसान आंदोलन में भी गुजरात में आदिवासी महिलाओं के साथ मिलके किसान आंदोलन पर चर्चा, काले किसान कानूनों पर वो चर्चा करने का काम करती रही हैं. हमारे साथ कुछ समय में जय किसान आंदोलन के अवीक साहब भी जुड़ेंगे, लेकिन तब तक हम चाहेंगे कि हम पूर्वी मैम से जाने. सो मैम, जो पहली चीज मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ, आपसे जानना चाहती हूँ कि कई सारे एस्टिमेट्स है जो कहते हैं कि महिलाएं 60 से 70% किसानी का काम करती हैं, लेकिन ज्यादातर लोगों को यही नहीं पता होता कि किसानी के क्या क्या काम होते हैं, किसानों से संबंधित क्या क्या काम होते हैं. उनके हिसाब से, मतलब जनरल जो परसेप्शन होता है कि आप फल से जोतते हो और आप बीज बोते हो और फिर हो जाता है. So, can you describe a little about what are the jobs that a farmers has to do, and उसमें महिला और पुरुष में किस तरह का डिवीजन रहता है?
So, हर रीजन में यूजुअली फार्मर्स जो मेल होते हैं वो डिसाइड करते हैं कि कौन सा क्रॉप वो ग्रो करेंगे. तो डिसीजन मेकिंग का जो काम होता है वो मेन लेते हैं. तो जैसे हमारे एरिया में गेहूं और चावल होते हैं, तो कौन से गेहूं बोने के, कौन से वैरायटी के चावल बोने के, वो डिसीजन मेन लेते हैं. उसके बाद जो मार्केट से खरीदारी होती है वो भी मेन करते हैं. पर जब एक्चुअल फार्मिंग काम होता है, तो जब ये चावल को सीड्स को सैपलिंग्स में कन्वर्ट कर, वो छोटे छोटे सैपलिंग्स होते हैं और फिर उसको ट्रांसप्लांट करते हैं. तो उसमें सैपलिंग्स को उगाना, सीड्स को क्लीन करना, उसको फिर सैपलिंग्स को उगाने के बाद जो वीडिंग का काम होता है, गुजराती में उसको निंदामण कहते हैं, हिंदी में मुझे नहीं मालूम उसको क्या बोलते हैं, पर वो जो वीडिंग का काम होता है वो बहनें करती है. फिर उसको उठा के ट्रांसप्लांट करने का जो काम होता है वो बहनें करती है. हार्वेस्टिंग का काम होता है वो जो बहनें करती है. उसके बाद हार्वेस्ट करके उसको क्लीन करना होता है, छोटे मोटे दाने पैक करके अलग से करने का होता है, वो काम बहनें करती है. सीड सेविंग, जो नेक्स्ट ईयर जब हम हाइब्रिड सीड्स नहीं यूज करते, देसी सीड्स यूज करते हैं. इन द पास्ट जब ट्रेडिशनल सिस्टम हुआ करता था, जब हम सीड बाहर से नहीं लाते थे, तो सीड सेविंग जो सबसे पैरामाउंट और सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट काम होता है, तो सीड सेविंग का काम बहनों का है. बहनें रिकग्नाइज करती है कि कौन सा सीड अच्छा है, मॉनिटर करती है, उसको सेव करती है. और एक्चुअली अगर हम सोचने जाए तो एग्रीकल्चर डिस्कवर बहनों ने किया था, राइट? जब हम हंटर्स एंड गैदरर्स थे तो विमेन वर द गैदरर्स. तो कई जगह पे उन्होंने नोटिस किया कि कई सीड्स गिर के वहां पे फिर से उग रहे हैं. कई सीड्स को हम लंबे समय तक स्टोर कर सकते हैं, लंबे समय तक रख सकते हैं. तो डिस्कवरी ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर भी अगर देखने जाए तो बहनों ने की है, सो बिकॉज ऑफ पेट्रियार्की और अपनी हमारी सोसाइटी जिस तरह से डिजाइंड है, more than 80% of the actual farm work is बहनें करती है। मार्केट के साथ रिलेटेड है, और जो डिसीजन मेकिंग का काम है वो भाई ज्यादातर करते हैं, मशीनरी का काम जो। लेकिन अगर आप देखें लेटली, तो क्योंकि फेमिनाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर जिसको बोलते हैं कि मेन माइग्रेट हो गए हैं अर्बन एरियाज में,
हम्म,
और बहुत सारा काम बहनों पे आ गया है, तो मशीनरी का काम भी लड़कियां और बहनें करती है अब। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि मैकेनाइजेशन भी नहीं करती है, तो मैकेनाइजेशन का भी काम, इवन हल जोतना, एग्रीकल्चर में सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट अभी छूटता जा रहा है, लेकिन एनिमल हस्बेंड्री का भी है, एनिमल को ध्यान रखने का, तो उसकी तो कंप्लीट जिम्मेदारी बहनों पे ही है। तो बहुत सारा काम खेती का बहनें संभालती है।
सो ये इसलिए ज़रूरी था ये पूरा डिस्क्रिप्शन देना, क्योंकि काफ़ी सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जिनके बारे में लोगों को पता भी नहीं होगा कि ऐसे काम भी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं जो किसानी के
राइट,
साथ रिलेटेड है और ये किए जाते हैं। सो सिर्फ एक आंकड़ा होता है कि भाई 70% काम महिलाएं करती हैं, तो इट्स डिफिकल्ट फॉर पीपल टू इमेजिन, बट नाउ दैट you have laid this down so perfectly and beautifully, so we know कि okay this is the work जिसके बारे में बात किया जाता है, ये है वो 70%
राइट,
काम।
राइट।
जी। मैम, तो आप किसान आंदोलन के साथ भी काफ़ी जुड़ी रही हैं। आप वहाँ पे भी डिस्कशंस वगैरह ऑर्गेनाइज करती थी। तो किसान आंदोलन में हमने देखा कि जो महिलाएं हैं उनकी जो भागीदारी थी वो काफ़ी सिग्निफिकेंट रही। महिला किसान दिवस मनाना, 8 मार्च को जो महिला दिवस है उस पे ग्रैंड सेलिब्रेशंस करना, जो किसान संसद हुई उसमें भी स्पेशल डेज रखे गए थे कि जहाँ पे सिर्फ महिला किसान बात कर रही थी। तो ये जो सारे मेजर्स लिए गए उसका क्या कोई टेंजिबल इम्पैक्ट दिख रहा है, या क्यों ये मेजर्स लेने बहुत जरूरी थे?
दो तीन पॉइंट्स है इसमें, आपने दो तीन क्वेश्चंस रेज किए मेरे लिए। क्या ये मेजर्स लेने जरूरी थे? बहुत ही जरूरी थे, क्योंकि आपने अपने टाइटल में ही लिखा है द इनविजिबल वर्क, राइट? द इनविजिबल विमेन और इनविजिबल वर्क, मैंने आपका वो ट्विटर पे देखा, उसमें आपने लिखा था। तो पी साईनाथ ने उस पे पूरा फोटो शूट किया था, विजिबल वर्क इनविजिबल विमेन। तो विजिबिलिटी देने से ही रिकग्निशन मिलेगी, राइट? ये जो सारा काम मैंने अभी इलस्ट्रेट किया, इसमें से तो बहुत सारा काम है जो मैं भूल गई होंगी, जैसे इरिगेट करने का फील्ड्स को रेगुलरली, उसमें खाद डालना, ये सब काफी सारा काम छूट गया मेरे से। तो ये सारा वर्क कई बार बहनें खुद रिकग्नाइज नहीं करती है, सोसाइटी तो नहीं रिकग्नाइज करती है एज दिस वर्क कंट्रीब्यूटेड बाय वुमेन, पर बहुत टाइम ऐसा होता है कि बहनें भी करती है कि हाँ मेरा खेत है मैंने कर दिया, मैं मजदूरी पे गई तो मैंने ये कर दिया। तो ये उनको खुद को भी ये रिकग्निशन आए कि वी आर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूटर्स, वी आर नॉट डिपेंडेंट, द इकोनॉमी इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन अस, राइट? हम सिर्फ किसी पे मोहताज नहीं है, पर इकोनॉमी बहुत सारी हम पे मोहताज है कि हम ये काम करेंगे तो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे। तो वो विजिबिलिटी के लिए जो आपने कहा कि बहुत जरूरी है, तो ये उसके लिए बहुत जरूरी था। tangible results विमेन फार्मर्स के मामले में लंबा अरसा लगेगा उसमें, क्योंकि ये क्या है कि बहुत सारे सोच इनग्रेन्ड है हमारे दिमाग में, राइट? सोसाइटी ने हमें बचपन से ये समझाया है कि, आई एम सॉरी मेरा ये लाइट की वजह से कुछ हो रहा है, आप सुन रहे हैं ना? यू कैन हियर मी, राइट?
यस आई कैन, यस आई कैन।
राइट। सो बहुत सारा वे ऑफ थिंकिंग इनग्रेन होता है अपने ब्रेन में और बहनों के दिमाग में कि क्या राइट है, क्या अप्रोप्रिएट है, सोसाइटी आपसे क्या एक्सपेक्ट करती है। तो वो चेंज लाना, वो परसेप्शन में, सोसाइटल चेंज में एक्सेप्टेंस लाना, चेंज लाना एक लंबा टाइम लगता है। तो उसकी वजह से टैंजिबल रिजल्ट्स मिलने प्रॉबली इतने इजी नहीं है। ये समय से एक सेंस ऑफ एम्पावरमेंट तो आती ही है, राइट? बिकॉज आप किसी के लिए, किसी चीज के लिए खड़े रहते हैं और फिर उसमें आपकी विक्ट्री मिलती है, तो एक सेंस ऑफ एम्पावरमेंट, एक सेंस ऑफ अचीवमेंट फील होती है आपको कि भैया हमने जो काम के लिए टाइम, मेहनत और समय निकाला था वो सफल हुआ। तो उस हिसाब से यू नो सेंस ऑफ अचीवमेंट, सेंस ऑफ अकम्प्लिशमेंट, वो सब है। बट चेंज एट द सोसाइटल लेवल काफी टाइम लगेगा।
So at least what I have been able to see, at least in some now, the phrase mahila kisan is not an alien phrase.
नो
मतलब
नो,
पहले तो किसान, और आपको बोलना पड़ता था क्योंकि किसान में जो महिला किसान है, और वो भी तब भी लोगों को काफी एलियन लगता था कि अरे
राइट
मतलब
राइट।
वो तो घर का काम देखती हैं, खेती का काम तो पुरुष देखते हैं।
किसान भाई
हाँ,
होता था ऑलवेज।
हाँ।
जब भी आप
तो
बोलो किसान भाई, इवन अगर आप पॉलिसी लैंग्वेज में देखो, या इफ अगर आप गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स में या कहीं भी आप देख लो, आप किसी, तो वो हमेशा कहेंगे हमारे किसान भाइयों के लिए हमने ये किया है, हमारे किसान, यू नो, बिकॉज पूरा अप्रोच पेट्रियार्कल है। सो यू आर एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट।
yes, so I think that language has made a great impact, and वो policy के लिए भी now it would be easier for women to negotiate, especially जब lands के लिए या किसी और bureaucratic चीज के लिए, when you approach the authority.
राइट
So
राइट।
the work that you've been doing on land ownership, कि महिलाओं को उन्हीं की जमीन दिलाने के लिए देयर इज प्रॉब्लम, डिस्पाइट इतना सारा काम 70% के करीब वो करती हैं, लैंड ओनरशिप का जो रेशियो है वो मेरे ख्याल से 13-14% से ज्यादा
राइट,
नहीं है महिला
यू आर
किसानों में।
एब्सोल्युटली, यू आर
इफ यू
एब्सोल्युटली
कैन
करेक्ट।
So, if you can describe the problem of land ownership among women farmers, and what are the bureaucratic problems that women face while they try and claim the land for themselves?
Right. So I must clarify that I'm associated with the organization WGWLO, who works on women's land right issues. I help them with transitioning to organic farming. तो मैं समझती हूँ ये पूरा प्रोसेस वो कैसे करते हैं और क्या करते हैं। मैं वो एक्चुअल काम नहीं करती हूँ। It is WGWLO that does that, and they do the advocacy work with women farmers and with policy makers. सो बेसिकली फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन वही आता है कि women themselves don't recognize कि वो किसान है। तो कई बार a lot of the times women let go of their हक land ownership का होता है, either as a daughter, either as a daughter-in-law, either as a wife। तो क्या होता है कि लेडी विडो हो गई है और उसके हस्बैंड के पास 2 acres ऑफ लैंड है, क्लियर टाइटल वाला, जो अपने लिनेज से अलग है। और जब व्हेन ही पासेस अवे, तो उसके इन लॉज आ जाते हैं कि भैया ये लैंड हम ले लेंगे, दिस विल बी अ फैमिली लैंड अगेन। तो WGWLO के पैरालीगल्स होते हैं जो विमेन को सपोर्ट करते हैं और उनको समझाते हैं उनके लीगल राइट्स क्या है। और दूसरा लेवल क्या होता है कि जब हम जब वो फर्स्ट स्टेप लेती है और वो जो लोकल विलेज तलाटी के पास जाती है, रेवेन्यू ऑफिसर के पास जाती है अपना लैंड की बात करने या इंफॉर्मेशन लेने के लिए, क्योंकि बहुत बार ऐसा होता है कि विमेन को पेपर वर्क के बारे में बिल्कुल ही नहीं पता होता है, राइट? कि कौन सा रेवेन्यू लैंड में कौन सा उनका लैंड आता है, कहाँ सिचुएटेड है, कौन उसके क्या उसका पट्टा नंबर है, एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. सो व्हेन वो जो तलाटी और सबके पास जाती है तो वहां सबसे पहले उनको ब्लॉकेज आ जाता है. तलाटी अगर पेट्रियाटिक थिंकिंग वाला है, वो कहेगा क्यों बहन तुम क्यों ये करवा रही हो, घर को तोड़ोगी क्या तुम. तो वहां एक स्टॉप हो जाता है. तो वन ऑफ द थिंग्स WGWLO करता है, वो उनका सेंसिटाइजेशन करता है, उनके साथ एडवोकेसी करता है कि ये बहन इतनी हिम्मत लगा के जुटा के आपके पास हेल्प लेने के लिए आई है, तो आप उनको वहां पे डिस्करेज मत करो. तो step by step, from women recognizing themselves as farmers, recognizing what their rights are, to working with revenue officers, government officers, sensitizing them to women's issues, to working with advocacy policies with the government, are the different steps that ये सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मकाम है, WGWLO है, ये सब हेल्प करती है विमेन को लैंड ओनरशिप के लिए. लैंड ओनरशिप, रिसोर्स ओनरशिप पेट्रियार्की के वजह से हमेशा मेन के साथ एसोसिएटेड होती है और उसकी वजह से सारे बेनिफिट्स भी उनको मिलते हैं. तो जब तक लैंड ओनरशिप बहनों के हाथ में नहीं आती है तो दे एंड अप बीइंग जस्ट मजदूर्स ऑन देयर ओन लैंड. सो टिल दे हैव ownership of land, they cannot benefit from what they put into the land. एक रिसर्च स्टडी बीना अग्रवाल करके फेमिनिस्ट राइटर है, शी इज वन द पद्म भूषण फॉर हर बुक. I don't know whether it's Padma Shri or Padma Bhushan. I apologize for not knowing that. But for her book, A Field of One's Own, तो उनके एक रिसर्च में ये भी पता चला था कि जब women are owners of their own land तो उनके सामने violence भी कम होता है. Domestic violence हो या violence from other members of the community. Having ownership to land reduces that for women. So जब हम tangible, जैसे आप दूसरे issues में tangible benefits की बातें कह रही थी, तो ownership to assets and ownership to resources directly benefits women greatly.
So the initial issue, land का issue से ही the problem starts जब महिला किसान की बारी आती. Just a small clarification, you said कि in-laws वाला जो चीज़ है वो आपने बताया, but जैसे आता है कि पास ऑन करना होता है इनहेरिटेंस के तौर पे, तो वहाँ पे do women get anything or do they not get anything at all?
So according to the Hindu succession law, women have right to land, right? They have right to ownership. So in a lot of places, जैसे बेटी को गुजरात में है, बेटी बेटा दोनों को हक है लैंड ओनरशिप का. In some places it works differently. So in each state, each area, it works differently. But women do have access to through family inheritance. A lot of the times they just don't know that they have a right to this.
And Avik Saha is also here. Avik Saha from Jai Kisan Andolan. Just he does not need any introduction as though, but he, just to clarify a bit, he has been a very key player when it comes to the entire Kisan Andolan. He has been part of EIKSCC and he has been working for farmers, with farmers, for over 6-7 years now. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. So he is here with us. He will also be joining in and telling us more about his work. He has recently been working in Bengal for over a year now with various women. We have started the Mahila Swaraj Front. And he has been working with them, so his insights are going to be really valuable. Just to finish up what Purvi ma'am and I were discussing, especially in Gujarat, I've seen that even after having the land rights, even after that, women usually give it away to their brothers, अच्छी अच्छी घर की लड़कियां अपने पिता की प्रॉपर्टी को क्लेम नहीं करती. That is what my mom did immediately after she got some land in her name. So I think that is also a thing that even after they get, because they are a अच्छी घर की लड़की, they would get it transferred उनके भाई के नाम पे या किसी और के नाम पे. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
So
that is not, yes, yes, please go ahead.
no, ma'am, please complete.
No, so I'm saying that's, that is with majority of the women, unless they're pushed in a situation where they're in financial trouble and land is the only asset available to them to make two ends meet, to work and to eke a living out of. A lot of the women let go, even in conditions when their life is dependent on land for survival. A lot of the times they give up their right and then migrate to different places as laborers in urban areas as well. Because of society expectations, because of, how one is expected to comply to some of the societal
Hmm.
norms.
Hmm. Yes. So, sir, my question would be to you now. So, we had been discussing what impact Kisan Andolan has created for the women farmers. Like the one of the most tangible thing is कि पहले महिला किसान phrase ही alien होता था लोगों के लिए. People could not comprehend कि ऐसा कुछ भी होता है. सो पूर्वी मैम लेड आउट वेरी ब्यूटिफुल्ली व्हाट काइंड्स ऑफ वर्क किसानी में होते हैं और उनमें से क्या-क्या काम महिलाएं यूजुअली करती हैं. सो आई जस्ट वांटेड टू नो योर पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ how Kisan Andolans, like what were the steps that Kisan Andolan took to solidify the identity of Mahila Kisan, and what impact do you see? What impact do you see of those steps on our society today?
थैंक यू जानवी. पूर्वी जी नमस्कार. बढ़िया
Namaskar,
लगा.
Vicky. So lovely to finally meet you.
Yeah.
Congratulations for all
Virtually.
the wonderful work, all the work,
Many
all the
congratulations to the
wonderful
whole country. एक जो बैकएंड में मैनेज हो रहा है, we are, I can now see the screen is split into 3 vertical portions. I hope all of us are clearly visible to those who are watching. That's the first thing technically. Second is there is blue light, yes, light before Purviji, but now it's gone. So it was looking like she's speaking from behind a glass, which I know she's not. So, and Janviji, your image is the weakest among all of us. I mean, it is flickering a bit. Perhaps your net connection is not so good. Now, with these technical the preface, and I do hope those who are watching this can see and hear us better. भाई बात बहुत स्पष्ट है. आय के लिए आंदोलन और आंदोलन के लिए आय, ये जो मुद्दा है, if you look at it from this context and perspective, that this whole issue is about securing income for the family, then this is a movement. ये आंदोलन महिलाओं का ही है. Because although the popular myth is that men earn and look after families, it is women who actually look after families. When we discuss about right of women in land, हमें ये याद रखना पड़ेगा कि हम शहर के जमीन, जायदाद, घर, मकान इत्यादि के साथ एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड को हमें बिल्कुल डिफरेंशिएट करना पड़ेगा. In most states of this country, and land is a state subject, agricultural land is a land which you are given by the government, allotted by the government for specific use. मतलब आप मकान अपना बना लीजिए और उसमें ना रहिए, कोई बात नहीं है सरकार की, लेकिन agricultural land you cannot own, technically at least, according to the law, and keep it fallow, not produce it, because these are assets which help in ensuring food security of the country. खाद्य सुरक्षा के लिए कृषि जमीन होता है तो उसको आप ऐसे बिना खेती का नहीं रख सकते हैं। इनफैक्ट सरकार के पास ज्यादातर लैंड रिफॉर्म कानून में अधिकार है कि यदि आप कल्टीवेट नहीं करते हैं तो सरकार जमीन वापस ले सकता है। हालांकि कभी मेरा 30 साल का लीगल एक्सपीरियंस में किसी को लैंड वापस होते दैट्स द लॉ। इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में राइट ऑफ वुमेन टू लैंड, participation of women in agricultural activities and their whole connectivity with the Andolan has to be crucially understood. महिलाओं का किसान आंदोलन के साथ भागीदारी तस्वीरों में तो दिल्ली बॉर्डर के आंदोलन से लोग दिख पा रहे हैं, लेकिन मैं याद दिलाना चाहूंगा दर्शकों को कि 2017 नवंबर में जो किसान संसद बैठी थी दिल्ली संसद मार्ग में, वहां पर देयर वाज अ कंप्लीट 1 डे सेशन ऑन महिला किसान एंड देयर वाज अ महिला पार्लियामेंट, महिला किसान संसद पार्लियामेंट. Medha Patkar ji and Kavita Krishnan ji and many other senior women leaders were there. There I noticed two things. I was there in that, I was a darshak. So the men, farmers and farmer leaders were audience and the women were holding their parliament. There were two kinds of things. Bechara Mahila, mostly it was about widows of farmers who had committed suicide. And there were women farmers actually who were tilling their own land. They had nothing to do with family tragedies. So इन दोनों वर्गों के बात सुनकर मुझे ऐसा लगा कि किसानी में अग्रणी भूमिका फोरग्राउंड में महिलाओं को रहना चाहिए. Farmland allotment by the government, whenever there is allotment, should be in the name of the head of the woman, head of the family, just like ration today is. And believe me, this is speaking from experience, the amount of work that women do in agriculture, I don't know, we say 70% work, but I don't know how 100% is computed and how 70% of that is computed. A very, very major portion of the back-breaking work is done by women. Men are involved largely in tilling the land, where tractors are used, or wherever even now the bullocks are used and plow is used. They are involved to a certain extent in creating the nursery, but thereafter, from transplantation, I'm talking about paddy, just to give you one example, from transplantation to weeding to harvest, it is women. And in the village where I do farming and in my farm, all my colleagues are women. So this is a lived example and experience I'm sharing with you. And they don't take BD breaks, they don't take tea breaks. They sincerely work, and they work hard and quick because they know they have to go back home, where duties of the home, the children are all there. So they're extremely serious workers. And we noticed that in the Andolan too. When women came, and it is usually much more difficult in the Indian context for women to come and stay away from their home for a long time, they were deadly serious. Of course, the men were also very serious, but women gave the Kisan Andolan of Delhi the strength, the foundational strength that is often not seen like the foundation, but on which the entire edifice stands. That is how important women's participation was. From 2017 to 2020, I think women's participation in Kisan Andolan, in issues relating to farmers, farming, etc., has been foregrounded. There is a lot to do, but a lot is being done also. I will give you just one more example of another Andolan, which is brewing, so that everybody understands the context of women farmers and their participation in all kinds of protests. The West Bengal government is trying to set up, and it's so amusing. I mean, it's so tragically amusing when I say this. Is trying to set up a greenfield coal mine. That means they want to start a new coal mine, and the chief minister is proudly saying that this will give so much coal for the next 100 years. We will not have to worry about electricity. Uh, the chief minister of Bengal is a lady. I have respect for her as a leader of her party, and I think it is the duty of every man to respect women. That's the first thing that you should do, because when you want to bring about equality, first is you have to understand that they deserve equal respect. So all the women jokes and women driving jokes and women this jokes and that jokes have to end if they have to have equality. But despite that, I must say the chief minister of Bengal seems to have no idea about you know what we are talking about in terms of climate change, what we are talking about in terms of renewable energy. When she says things like we need a new coal mine for next 100 years of supply of coal, she's probably not aware that we have a graduated scale by which we have to bring down coal. Now, that apart, this is a place called Devcha Pachami, which is in Birbhum district, which is a very large Adivasi pocket. And minorities and Adivasis form the bulk of the population there. And when we are going, it is the women who are out in numbers. The men are hiding. The men are either with the ruling party or the main opposition party. They don't want their face on video. They're not coming out. The women are coming out. I wish I could share photos with you, with jhadus, with Katari, that the scythe, and they are saying we will not give 1 square feet of our land. This is our connect. This is our heritage. This is our only source of income. We don't want to be displaced. We don't want to be rehabilitated. We don't want compensation for land. We don't want job in exchange of land. So this is how clear women are when they protect and preserve their family. So a woman protester protests not just for income, which secures the livelihood of the whole family. She saves the root, the mooring of the family. She saves the culture of the area, community. There are so many roles that she plays in one protest. And this I'm seeing in Devcha Pachami. This I saw in the Delhi protest. This I saw in the Kisan Sansad. And if I have opportunity of visiting more women farmers protests and groups and meeting and talking to them, I'm sure this will be a common feature, despite variety and variation in language, food habits, clothes, culture, everything. All women farmers of India, all rural women of India are the protectors, preservers, and the chowkidar, if I may say so, of all things that are valuable for living and for upholding the core rural culture of India. So I'm sorry I may have spoken a little more than I intended to, but women in protest and women farmers specifically are the key to which the door to the future will open. I genuinely believe that these are not just words.
Thank you, sir. It was an extremely important point and an extremely important insight into the Kisan Andolan and how women, worked in it. So just a request, this seems to be an issue with your internet. Your video is getting stuck. So if you can just look into that. Meanwhile, a question that I have based on the thing that you just said about how women protesters are usually the backbone of any protest. So even we have seen in environment related protests, we saw it in Chipko Andolan, and we see it in multiple Andolans that women participants are in huge numbers. Women are very closely related to nature because of their daily requirements, the requirements of the family. It comes from the forest, and therefore it's women who are doing it, and therefore they are more into protecting the forest more fiercely maybe. But when it comes to leadership, like even in SKM, if we see the top leadership, we don't see that ratio translating into leadership. So, what are the barrier points, and what can be done to make sure that they are not just participants, but their participation translates into seeing more and more women coming out as leaders? Purvi ma'am, Avik sir, please weigh in.
Is it for Purviji to answer this, or should I answer this?
So, any one of you, Purvi ma'am,
Is the
if
video
you
better
can,
now? Is the video better now?
it's better, but so if you can just see if there's any other network available.
Avikji, you go ahead and then I will jump in later.
There are two clear steps in this: participation and leadership. It is a tragedy that the 9-member committee of SKM does not have any woman in it. It is an even bigger tragedy that we are discussing women farmers' issues today, and I am one of the panelists. I ask myself, why the hell am I here? The answer is not very bewildering. The answer and the solution is simple. We did not allow participation. We, in our patriarchal structure, said, ये महिलाओं का काम नहीं है भाई, यहाँ पुलिस गुंडे मवाली आ जाते हैं, आप लोग घर रहो, look after the children, wash the dishes. More and more women, and I think one of the reasons is education and television, are now coming out, and participation is increasing. As participation increases, there will be a jostle for leadership space, and we will have to give them leadership. There are certain prominent leaders. I am, of course, leaders who hail from cities and are in part of women's movements and organizations. They should be in the forefront. But I am actually now waiting for that magic moment when rural women will become leaders of movements, and that day is very, very near. With their participation and importance having grown so much, their visibility having grown so much, I think we men have to, vacate space and create it for them. And it's not created for them; it's theirs by right, and they are coming, and they will soon occupy it.
I have a different perception to this. The idea of leadership that we have is also very patriarchal, right? A woman should be very assertive. She should be very eloquent. She should be able to hold her own. She should be able to, deliver leadership skills in the same way as a man does. Unfortunately, our societal system does not allow women to be leaders in that way. And if you look at a lot of leaders around the world, they, for the lack of a better word, they emulate men when they become leaders. They're not women leaders from from a feminist perspective, so to speak. But if you go to rural communities, and what I have noticed is women are fantastic leaders. They're fantastic leaders in the way which they lead their families to take a certain decision. And this I see in the manner in which men contribute to movements. It is a lot of the times the women supporting the men, the women pushing the men, propelling them on, saying, I will look after the situation here. This issue is important. Why don't you go and do something about it? And so till we have a society where women with their softness and with their insecurities, vulnerabilities, are accepted as leaders and spaces are created for them to be leaders, a lot of men, can you hear me, Janvi?
Yes, ma'am, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
Till that situation arises, I think we will have a lot of women who support men leaders, but are leaders in their own right, in their local areas, local situation, where they're more comfortable expressing themselves, talking about issues. So I see it more leadership in a more decentralized manner, uh, contributing through men at this stage. I'm not too sure if I got my point across, but what I want to say is that they're not leaders. They're just not leaders in the way we presume
Hmm.
leaders to be, right? So
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
how I see this point.
And so, is this a organic process that now they are leaders in their own right, but someday they would be, they would become the face? So, is this an organic process, or there's something that needs to be done? There's an active hindrance that is on their way.
I think there is definitely a change there is a change needed in the way society views women for them to be active leaders. A lot of change has to happen at this family level, at the village level, before they can be active leaders in their own rights. But I think lot of things are happening which are making that possible. Financial security, women having access to land ownership, women having access to forest resources, um, the ability for a woman to financially support herself gives her that ability to be more prominent in a leadership kind of a role. So a lot of there's no one thing that would make women into leaders of tomorrow, but there's a lot of things together, and a lot of things we as a society have to work on for that to happen.
Yes. And so, you wanted to comment on this?
Yes, it's a very enlightening perspective that Purviji brought into it. Yes, why should the model of masculinity become the template of leadership? It's a very valid question, and the answer must be equally emphatic that no, a woman leader has to be a leader as a woman, not as a man. So whenever we talk about great women of the past, Jhansi Ki Rani, I mean, she must ride a horse like a man, take out a sword, and almost wear men's clothes to be able to be a Jhansi Ki Rani. I think Purviji says something very important. I'm not very clear on how this will emerge. Uh, I mean, I'm not clear because I haven't even thought about it. That's shame on me. But yes, that is the template of the future. A woman as a leader in her capacity as a woman, not because she can masquerade as a man or does things as men do. हम बराबर के हैं का मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम पुरुष के साथ बराबरी करेंगे. हम तो हमारे स्टैंडर्ड से है हम लीडर बनेंगे, नेत्री बनेंगे. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing. I'm I'm very taken in by this idea. Yeah, I
So,
wanted to say that.
just to indulge in here a bit, so Purvi ma'am had in association with WGWLO, she does this workshops where women farmers come and they're together, and when that they are in their comfortable space, they just become a totally different human being. They are fun. They take lead. It's so nice to see them function in that way. So if we can create this space where they are so comfortable that they can be their own person, that leadership which is in them internally, I personally feel just shines through. Yeah, so we need to create those kind of spaces where they are just comfortable being themselves and the rest will be done. We don't need to help them with anything else. So,
Just to add another point, Janvi,
yes,
um,
sir.
in so-called uh, less modern or primitive societies, women uh, leaders as women shines out much more. I
Yeah.
was just remembering my experiences in that coal belt area, and there the women were being women. They were not copying men. So I suppose, the state of primitiveness is actually the state of modernity. And the more modern we are,
Absolutely. I have to agree with Avijji here that, majority of the leadership skills that I have is from indigenous communities. And a lot of that has changed, unfortunately, due to NGO intervention, right? Because a lot of the times we go in there wanting progress, wanting to develop, and a lot of the times it's men from NGOs going to these areas, and they're uncomfortable dealing with women, right? They're uncomfortable dealing with, and so then they're like, men kahan hai, sort of a thing, which changes the dynamics in the community as well. I apologize, just give me 1 minute to
no,
uh,
please don't. The barking helps.
so my experience has, like Avijji's taught me, that indigenous communities are more egalitarian and that they have more equality within. They don't think about one higher than the other, and unfortunately, modernization by us has reflected in that. So I completely agree with him there.
Yeah, so there can be a whole other session, I personally feel, on modernization and globalization and how it has impacted women and indigenous communities and farmers. So I think we should definitely have that discussion someday, maybe quite soon. But yeah, this is a extremely crucial point. The way we see modernity and the template of leadership. We need to think around these things and reevaluate our beliefs around it. Now it's 46 minutes into the session already, and I just have this one last question to wrap this beautiful session up. So we primarily were talking about Mahila Kisan and the problems that they face. So are there so there would be certain band-aid steps that we need to take to ensure that they immediately get some of the relief, and then there has to be certain long-term things that needs to be done. तो आप दोनों के हिसाब से वो क्या चीजें हैं जो इमीडिएटली लॉ के जरिए, इन्फोर्समेंट के जरिए हम कर सकते हैं महिला किसानों के लिए, और क्या ऐसी चीजें हैं जो लॉन्ग टर्म में हमें एज अ कंट्री करनी होंगी टू इंश्योर कि महिला किसान, उनको जो एक आइडेंटिटी मिली है वो पावर में ट्रांसलेट हो, वो उनके अधिकारों को मिलने में उनको आसानी हो, उस चीज में ट्रांसलेट हो. सो अवीक सर एंड देन पूर्वी.
Uh, let's look at Mahila Kisan in several segments. One important thing is wife of a deceased Kisan. Two, landowning Mahila Kisan. Three, landless Mahila Kisan. Four, Adivasi minor forest produce collecting Mahila. I'm sure there could be more categories, but just these four come to my mind. Number one, for widows of farmers who've committed suicide, all state governments must immediately waive that loan which forced that man to commit suicide. Two, each of them must be given a seed capital to continue their family. Some states have something like 5 lakhs, which is very inadequate. So something very major, yet not so much that the entire dynamic of the village changes. If somebody in the village suddenly wins a lottery, that person is no more in that village. So sufficient resources government provided so that the woman can continue to live her life. She doesn't fall prey to society and other things. And three, she gets special preference in terms of all procurement and other things. This is a three-pronged policy which each state government must do. And of course, it starts with the process of identifying rather than denying farmer suicides. Mahila Kisan owning land. Mahila Kisan owning land must similarly, because Mahila Kisan will produce more out of that land, will get that, the wealth that is generated from that will come back more into society and in the cycle of economy than a Purush Kisan. So she needs a clear-cut policy of preferential treatment. There should be positive discrimination for Mahila Kisan, which is not the policy anywhere. Number 3, landless Mahila Kisan. This is a very complicated question. They actually have the greatest difficulty. We talk about village, but a village is also a microcosm. There are 3, 4, maybe 5 different levels in the economy of the village. So I always make sure that when I go to a new village, I start from the Dalit Mohalla, or I start from the Muslim Mohalla, because the image there is completely different from the image where people who usually take me will take me. On landless Mahila agri workers, the first injustice that has to be immediately wiped out is differential rate in wages by policy, by implementation. And second, there must be again positive discrimination in terms of access to work. The Adivasi minor forest produce collecting Mahila Kisan is actually the worst off among all of them. She battles not just uncertainty in market, lack of demand of the forest produce, she battles the entire forest department's infrastructure. She is a thief in her own forest. So, while the central government often announces MSP for forest produce and all that, ये सारे जो ऑटोमेटिकली हम जो हम नीति के तौर पर घोषणा करते हैं, इनको नियत और बिल्कुल जमीन पर चलने वाला कार्यक्रम और प्रोग्राम्स में हमको बदलना पड़ेगा. Adivasi women farmers producers must be specially procured by the government and specially marketed. And basically, I think it's the duty of the government, every government. Let it not be labeled that I am just anti the central government. Every government, including the state government, must make sure that a woman who is working using her own hands and skills receives much better access to resources, both in terms of input and output, without a doubt. All I'm telling the government is, अच्छा चलिए आप 100% population के लिए कुछ कर नहीं पा रहे हैं, 50% के लिए तो कर दीजिए, 50% के लिए कर दीजिए. And these are not very difficult things to do. These are not great asks. And a woman who generates income and brings it into the family, it'll mean a difference to the children. It'll mean a difference to the local economy. It'll mean a difference to the whole country. So if the government focuses on these 4 or more categories of women in work, I think the government will actually improve the country by leaps and bounds. Ji.
Yes, these are very important and crucial suggestions, and these are very well put, categorized, and very easy to understand. And I think it should be easy to follow through as well. जैसे आपने कहा कि नीति की नहीं नियत की बात है. So that's really well put. Now going to Purvi ma'am, your take on this and a final comment from you.
Avijji has very, systematically, categorically put across majority of the issues. I have only 2 points to add. One is the MS Swaminathan Women Farmers Entitlement Bill, which lapsed in 2013, was a good place to start. Reintroducing that bill would be a good place to start to support women farmers. The other example that I want to give you is one at a societal level. Say, you are in an area and with, different techniques and tools and support and subsidies, you've increased farm production, you've increased the family income, but the children still remain malnutrition. Can you think of a reason why?
So the majority of the produce has to go to the market.
Yes, but they're getting money in return for that. So, income is still coming into family. Majority of the work still is done by women. And so with more harvesting to do and with more housework to do, the women have lesser time for breastfeeding their babies or cooking for their babies. And so, even with increased income and production and all of that, the children still suffer. And so, the men have to be introduced in the kitchen and the men have to be introduced to the cooking. And, we have to start at that stage where, Avik was talking about equality at all levels. And so, bringing in a situation where we are not accusing anyone of not doing something, but introducing them to the fact that we need to support each other to look after the family better and take it from there. So, we need something at a policy level, but we need something at the social and the family level as well. And when they, work in tangent with each other, is when we will be able to see a substantial shift and a change in the overall being of the society, is how I see it. So not just income, but change in how work is divided, how work is perceived, how family time is perceived. So
Yeah,
that
and
that is
that is a very crucial point. Along with policy level, we have to also take this up at a social level and at a personal level in order to make sure कि the policy level measures get translated. Yes. I think we are running out of time, so we will have to sort of wrap it up now. So thank you very much, Avik sir. Thank you very much, Purvi ma'am. Both your insights have been very amazing. Before I wrap it up, because I'm going to, I on a personal level, am going to use this video to make notes and go again and again, because there are so many points to think about, and to there are so many references that we need to read up on as well. So in addition to what you have already said, are there any particular books or documents that you would suggest to our viewers, or to anyone who would be watching this later, that in order to understand the world of Mahila Kisan better, you can read up on this? So if you could suggest something of that kind that people can take a reference from.
Two things straight away. One, uh, go to the website of Alliance for Sustainable and Holistic Agriculture, ASHA, and there is a whole section on Mahila Kisan rights, etc. Very well articulated policy, almost policy documentation. And the second is, just like Purviji brought in, and I noted it down, the Swaminathan Women Farmers Report, hunt through. Believe me, there have been many people in this country who've thought about this, who've written about this, but most of it is lost. I mean, India is a great place to lose the fantastic idea. So, whatever bullion comes to your mind on Google, find it, hunt it, build, and read it up. You will find a lot of material. I can't give you a list, but you will find a lot of material. And the important thing is perhaps now to create even a WordPress website where all this material is kept at one place. And thereon, scholars and activists and people with, people looking forward to the future of India can come and work together. Because it's very clear, Janvi, if half the country lags behind, no India can become any Vishwaguru or whatever words politicians use. Nothing. If you're leaving half the country behind and you're deliberately doing it. To take Purviji's words and to give it some kind of rhyme, income and attitude must walk together and move forward hand in hand. It's not just a question of income, because in many cases, greater income has converted itself into Scorpio cars and moving from Tharra to foreign liquor. So income and attitude has to go hand in hand. In urban scenarios, I do see. I mean, I'm the father of two grown-up men, married boys. I see their attitude is completely different from the attitude that I had, and what my mother made me do, and why I got a bigger piece of fish than my sister. So these are lived experiences. Of course, we are conscious and we understand that these needs to change, but I don't know how to wash my clothes yet. So I do need to learn, but I see my sons already do it. They share responsibility. So if that can happen in cities, where I'm sure it's happening due to the pressure that women impose on men, and rightly so, why can't it now go into the countryside and make men equal participants in the family, in rural family life? Earlier, the logic was very simple. The division of labor was logical. We don't live those lives anymore. So now the division of labor is all work must go to women, all leisure must go to men. So this nonsense must end immediately. Thank you.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
yes, so I was just thinking about a meme I had seen when Avikji was talking about not knowing how to do dishes. It was saying everyone wants to change the world, but nobody wants to do the dishes. So maybe we can start with there, right? All of us, give your brothers the opportunity to do the dishes once a week or every day for that matter. Start from there. And I think for reading, lots of amazing work is out there. Beena Agarwal is one of the most famous writers on women's land rights. A Field of One's Own is a wonderful book to read. Devender Sharma writes so well. His blog, The Ground Reality, talks so well about farmers' issues. Talking to the women in your life, talking to, your mother, your grandmother, the lady who comes to wash your dishes, going out and, just having a conversation with people. It's amazing how much you learn about yourself when you talk to people and, you put yourself and talk to people with empathy, not sympathy, not that, oh, bechara, like, let me help you out, not but empathy, putting ourselves in their place. And so I think it's simple things. We just need to learn how to be, better humans in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't have been, I think, a better point to end this conversation on than, just saying that, just go and talk to them. There's
Yeah.
so, instead, and when you do, you would realize that you are not doing anything for them, they are teaching you instead. So just go and talk to people, just go and talk to farmers, just go and talk to women farmers. So that is a very good note
But
to end
take
on.
their permission. But take their permission if they want to talk to you. Don't throw yourselves at
Yeah.
them and say, "Mujhe baat karni hai." Take their permission. See if they're willing to talk to you.
In my experience, they are way nicer and warmer people than any of the elite
So
privileged
let's not
ones.
take
So
advantage of that. Ask
yeah, let's not.
permission.
Yes, yes,
Ask permission.
definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Purvi ma'am. Thank you so much, Avik sir. And here's to hoping that, it's today we are here to celebrate Mahila Kisan Divas and to make sure that the legacy of the Kisan Andolan, कि जिस तरह से महिला किसान एक एलियन फ्रेज से अभी एक हर घर में पहचानने वाला शब्द बन गया है, तो उसी तरीके से किसान आंदोलन की ये जो लेगेसी है इसको हम आगे लेके जाएंगे एंड हम सब मिलके काम करके ये चीज इंश्योर करेंगे कि ये जो आइडेंटिटी उन्हें मिली है ये उनको राइट्स में भी ट्रांसलेट हो, अधिकारों में भी ट्रांसलेट हो एंड वी ऑल कैन बिकम द मीडियम फॉर क्रिएटिंग दिस वर्ल्ड कि जहाँ पे एक दिन मतलब हमारे संसद में किसी भी आंदोलन की कमेटी में 50% से ज्यादा ही महिलाएं हों. So on that note, let's just wrap this session up. Thank you so much, everybody who watched this session. Thank you so much again, Purvi ma'am, Avik sir, for joining in. Thank you,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
hopefully we will have many more such sessions with you guys.
Avikji, it was lovely meeting you.